month. This is,
Please just do it. Let's not think about it more.
Yeah, I don't think we got anything pending anyway, do we don't, so, I don't think it hurts to wait a month.
hearing no motion, we'll consider it for a month and then we'll revisit it next month. Old business, basically we're going to do some project updates right here, so like Mr. Dalton over here to give us a brief update on A, B, and C consolidated property listing that we discussed, some enterprise zone, adopting a process for future EDA projects and activities.
Okey-doke. Thanks, Ricky. First, I'm going to apologize because I took off most of last week to make hay, so I don't have anything written to hand out to you. I can tell you. But that was the most important thing in my life last week, so I made hay. EDA consolidated property listings. Currently, and this may be just me, but I believe the EDA as a group needs to come up with a listing of all the property, all the attributes of that property, the acreage, what it can be used for, if it's has public and water and sewer available, whether gas or any of those other things. But also, I believe it's imperative, because we can't control all the land out in the county or the area, that we look at certain private property that's either available for public sale and put it on our list, that we can market that property and work with those property owners to actually help market that property. Doesn't mean we'll ever own it before they'll have it, but it gives us a complete listing, especially out at exit 19. The other side of the roads are graded. Those people are like us, haven't had a great success. I believe that's a place that's, because of all the incentives that are available out there, that could blow up and go crazy and develop any time. But I think only public and private lands need to be part of this advertisement and marketing list. And let's get it out there so anybody can look at it and get it on the website and say, okay, these are the properties we have, what we can do with them, the acreage. And since we don't have any zoning, it's good to go. I think that would be a positive step for us if y'all so desire to do that.
My opinion is I don't see why, I don't see any reason not to do that. That's my opinion.
Well, I have been putting together all the county-owned, EDA-owned properties, so we will move forth that. Some of you guys will have to, and ladies will have to assist us on this, talking to some of these private property owners to see if they'll allow us to list their property as for sale and the attributes of that property. We may want to just a simplistic saying, agreement says, yeah, you can list our property and here's the sale price. B, enterprise zone information. I hope that everybody knows that we're part of a tract area enterprise zone of several thousand acres. I intended to have the map of the enterprise zone, which includes Wildwood all the way over to exit 14, the industrial park, Parkdale, and some other areas in the county, and all the way over into Galax. What you get out of that is part of the incentives that have been promised, not only all the state incentives, which are so many dollars for every job created, but of waiver of building permit fees and water and sewer fees and a reduced rate. We need to get that. Until I sort of stumbled across it, I really didn't understand that Carroll had this multi-area enterprise zone, and pretty soon they'll be called opportunity zones. There's a kickoff meeting of opportunity zones in Charlottesville. I think it's October the 18th. I sent Ricky a copy of that, I believe, that I've signed up to go to understand what an opportunity zone is. C is adopting a process for future EDA projects and activities. I really believe, instead of being off the cuff, that we need to develop a list of incentives and how we go about providing those incentives, that if you create 50 jobs and $10 million, you get this. If you create $100 million and 200 jobs, or 5 jobs and $1 million, that we have it all listed, instead of us trying to come up with an incentive package for every different project. You can just look at it and say, okay, I meet this, and this is what they have to offer. As we market your land in the county in the future, we have all that out there, and that includes reduced water and sewer, etc. And I'm not so sure that the county shouldn't, and the EDA shouldn't be looking at their own job creation incentive of so much per job if you hire a local Carroll County person that's on land. We had all that over and with. I just think that it's imperative, especially as people change, that you have something that we can hand out and say, this is, and everybody then, I'd say every citizen in the county can say, hey guys, this is what we're doing. There's no ifs, ands, and buts or special deals going on. Brief status of open projects. Woodlawn School. When I came here, I was told we'd close September the 1st. They're still having contractors looking. We did additional asbestos, or Landmark did additional asbestos testing and fungi testing and some other things over there. We had people through the building all last week and probably this week trying to prepare those bids. While they haven't told me, when I see that going on, it tells me that there's more found than we originally anticipated, and the project costs are going up. So whether that's just my intuitive, if you contractor types ought to know that. When you bringing additional people in, you see that. Wildwood, we have a proposal or two out there for pretty significant projects. The details of those are, the state brings the projects, we send the proposals in. The other items are, there's some problems with the current stormwater over there that we're having Wildwood Group Resita's fixing. There's been a lot of discussion about whether the Wildwood sign, I think we need to do a lot of things to create some Wildwood. It's been 10 years in the making and still empty, so there's some things that need to happen there. Go Virginia. This is Mr. Dalton. We have been awarded for this livestock thing a $100,000 grant. One of the things I did not realize, and we have not signed that contract yet for this livestock because there was a lot of private investment we still haven't tied down. There was school issues of teaching and things that need to be tied down. A lot of work to go in that. So I'll just say it this way, Mr. Dalton has refused to sign the contract for the $100,000 until some of these issues are resolved, and I won't sign the contract or bring it before y'all to approve until all these issues are fixed, and I can bring you a contract in here and say, guys, here's the private investment, here's the school deal. Till that happens, the other $167,000 that we pledged, we don't have $167,000. And we can't make up that unless we get those agreements. And the number 4 there is Appalachian Natural Gas. I'm glad Mr. Thomas is going to update us on that.
So, about the last 3 weeks, I've been studying this intently. And the question was asked at Citizen Time, what the status of that project was. I have to admit, I had to go back and read a little bit of the history of it. And I don't have an all-inclusive update. I think there's still a little more information for us to collect before we can have a complete picture, but I think right now we have a pretty good understanding of the key issues. So very quickly, in 2012, I guess a lot of you know that Carroll County and IDA, EDA, and the lab manufacturer, which is parent company Mohawk, entered into an agreement whereby Mohawk paid for the operational and infrastructure expenses to build the natural gas system, which would support their operation and could consequently provide some benefit to the area.
Mr. Thomas, you want to catch Mark over there? Let him know.
Yeah, there it is. And I'm going to share this with you at the end of the
Okay,
meeting.
sorry.
So basically, here are the key points. That Carroll County's IDA did pay for the construction of the system, and a lab manufacturing corporation was billed and paid for the reimbursement of those expenses. I've got a spreadsheet right here that shows all the expenses that were given, and then Sandy has sent me the dates that the payments were made from Mohawk. So the payments made from Mohawk were right at $1.7 million in 3 payments. And the expenses that was pulled together was just shy of that, 1 point. Let me get the right column number, 1.643 million, plus or minus, is what the expenses were covered at that time. The original agreement, the lab manufacturer Mohawk was granted a royalty payment of 25 cents per 1,000 standard cubic feet of gas delivered on the system. That excluded their own usage and that of Carroll County and the local government. So they got a royalty on which was to their benefit. That was a rationale for them doing it, along with getting the benefit of their own manufacturing operation. In 2015, the IDA sold the rights of the system to Appalachian Natural Gas. Terms of the sale were $2.2 million, $50,000 at closing, $350,000, which would begin to be paid back in 2020 for 5 years, and $1.8 million of credits to A&G, assuming that $2.2 million in capital investment or improvements were made from 2015 to 2020. So to kind of sum that up right there, we're not to the end of the 5-year period yet. So we still are in the midway through the 5th year. So what Solel and I have talked about is we're going to set up a meeting and begin to gauge what their capital investment was and begin to see how they're performing against this contract. But as of right now, they're not at the end of their 5-year period for the capital investment. So there was also a piece in there that said additional consideration for transferring of operational personnel that was transferred from county employees to A&G would be considered as part of the $2.2 million improvement in capital incentives. So whatever they paid initially to transfer those employees could be considered part of the $2.2 million. So, other than the fact that we are in the process of setting up a meeting with them, which hopefully we can have done in the next month, that's where we're at right now. So, I know it's not entirely complete, but our intent is to try to close all the loopholes in this thing, make sure we get a complete picture of this thing. So, and I'm committed, I'll sit down with Mr. Compton at the end of the meeting right here and show him what I found and anything that he might want to give us as far as direction on questions that he has. Any questions or comments?
I guess from all the hard work Ricky's done on this is basically, I think all the documents show that the county and the EDA hasn't subsidized the sale of the gas line, that you'll actually end up having a profit of $350,000 plus the interest off of that, and which is not a bad deal. Plus you got natural gas into town and to the industry that you needed.
Questions? Okay. So at last meeting, we had a discussion on Mr. Beamer wanting to do some tree maintenance on the property that EDA is leasing to him, the 45 acres plus or minus over there. Questions that you guys had were what kind of trees, where they're at, how many trees, dead trees. So I spent a couple hours over there riding around looking at your 45 acres, so I know it pretty well now, I think. So I sent everybody pictures and some my comments on that. Is there any other questions that we had as a board, and what do you want to do on this as far as an action?
So it's more or less just scrub trees, not the hardwood or anything?
Yeah, the one question was, were they clear cutting anything? And I looked especially for that. There are no clear cutting. It's selective trees here and there that are either out in the open or dead, or particularly going to remove some of the wild cherry because of this cat.
You would consider that good farmland maintenance
Yep.
to remove those trees?
Questions, or does anyone have a motion they would like to make on this item?
His lease says he can't do it unless y'all amend it, so if somebody needs to make a motion, y'all vote to approve this.
I make a motion that we approve.
Second. Second. And a second. Any further discussion? So all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The motion passes. Last thing we have on here is an item to begin to consider the question of adopting some banking best practices. I'm not sure we'll finish everything that we need to finish tonight, but this is a means of getting it into your minds a little bit, what might be considered best practices or better practices than what we have right now. Right now, currently, 2 people are signers on each check, is that correct?
The signatory cards will eventually include 4. We're just trying to get the documents all to the bank so that they can.
But each check
Well, each
requires.
check requires 2 signatures, yes.
So Slell and I have talked a little bit, each check in the county requires 3 signatures, is that correct?
Yes.
So if we went to 3 signatures, that would be being consistent with county practices. Make it a little easier, I guess, to understand. A little harder maybe to get a check signed, but it would be consistent with county practices. So that's one thing that we thought about that we could do. Also, as Sandy said, we have 4 people that would have access to the account or be able to view the account. And that's, I think, consistent with what the county has right now. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
So this would be a process where we just try to get aligned with the county on the best practices for handling the checks and the bank. Any discussion or comments on this?
We just have one question. Would you want to order checks 3 days at the third line or wait until the hundred stock is exhausted?
That's a good question.
How much stock do you have, Sandy?
How much?
I would just wait then.
Whatever that is. I had to order them in the last 2 months, but it, of course, a lot depends on how many checks we write, but it would probably be about 6 months, 5, 6 months, depending on activity. It's not a huge expense, it's just a question.
We have a policy where just one person initials it in the memo line,
Yeah.
so 3 people send. So is there any other questions, or we want to make a motion on this meeting, or consider this for 1 month and then be prepared to make a motion on this best practice at next month's meeting?
I don't see any reason to wait. I think we ought to follow the practices of the county. So I'll make that motion.
So the motion would be that we would ultimately need 3 signatures on each check, and then have 4 people that have the authority to view and authorize the bank account.
That motion.
So Mr. Collins has the motion before us. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any other questions or comments on that? If you're ready to vote, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, so that gets us through our agenda. I'm going to speed things up by saying, does anybody have anything else they want to say before we adjourn and go into our joint session with the Board of Supervisors? So that one, anything you'd
You
like?
wore me out.
You could start.
It'll get worse before it gets better. is what they say. Okay, if there's no other comments, we have a motion to adjourn.
No, you've got a joint meeting here. You just recess, you gotta stay in session.
Okay, so we'll have no adjournment. We'll maybe get up and take a 5-minute break.
Hot dog bitch.
Yeah, that's right. Hey,
We're gonna be doing-
which one y'all, somebody, check in that last one?
I did.
These are the checks from last meeting. There's 220 I'm checking
Everybody.
the copies.
Robert. Sir. I'm Good.
Y'all don't make it easy.
Oh,
Did I miss? She all right? Thank you.
Okay, you all right?
Basically, I missed the meeting of this. Usually what you don't want to change is what it is.
Krista, she's got a
well, I can give it to her. That.
I'll fill this one.
Actually, get rid of the checks.
I've almost used actually for credit. We had so much paper. She was great. I had a pile of work on my desk. After we did 2 sides, I shredded. So I cut down to about that much.
That was her tracking the project.
Okay. Well, you said that, yeah, something
No, he said, well, he said signature, I don't know if he's planning to get her, and he said to write down. Well, apparently the county has 3, so they want us to too.
We gave it to him.
He's doing great things, but he can be.
Yes. Then sold it for $2.2 million, $50,000 for $75,000. This right here is $350,000. They don't get no payback.
Does the interest accumulate from that time now, or is it?
Okay, so now that's the question. Oh, Bob, you can get everybody.
They're not all out.
She's over here.
Okay, all right, I'll start.
Jared inside there again.
I don't know how many chairs they have around your table.
Yeah, but I'm about dead, but I gotta get alive.
Yeah, you got to ask traffic.
Yeah, I know, I tried.
No, I knew. But I couldn't stay.
I need to do something, I don't know. I need to learn.
You toys on, you know,
Nah,
that could
I've
happen
never
in there.
seen that.
His truck.
I should be dead.
You, Mark Cat.
No.
Confused up in
I'm
line.
negative 3 lives.
Yeah, well, yeah, then a few months later, we sold all the kids went to me.
Essentially, they.
Oh, shoot, okay. I think
One thing
they,
we get 460,000.
I think 70 was.
This is still pretty good.
He is. Mark was all school.
But we could get some. Turn out.
I said, on the bank.
Is there a time limit?
We're about 10 feet off the ground.
Fixing to do a remodel.
They reported on.
Three different contractors they call them. Do the trade on it.
It's done a lot of.
The Carroll unit.
But I just heard I think they'd be worth a lot more.
Rex has been working with me on driving.
Hey, you felt good,
I don't
you.
think so.
And I will see, it's not that.
Thank you.
Resolution.
Let's move on
I was about 4 inches off the ground when I finished, so. Hello,
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
You got more lives than a cat, don't you?
What?
You got more lives than a cat.
No, I think I'm negative three.
I know that.
I'd rather sit the pretty girls.
How are you, Bob?
I'm doing good, good to see you.
You too.
That's exactly.
Oh, thank you. Oh, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I don't know.
Well, I hope you're in Carroll County. I hope you're married with 6 little
In
children.
10 years?
Yeah. 2 sets of triplets.
Oh, Bob.
Hello, young man. Your mom's a very attractive lady, I think.
Well, thank
I'm
you.
told I would never notice that kind of stuff, you know. Power off. Go. Hello there. You don't mind if I sit beside this
You know what?
attractive young
You
lady?
sit right there all you want.
It was either her or Larry Edwards, and I said, no way.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you what. Larry probably
there.
knows you too well to let you sit.
Sure.
Sit next to him.
I knew Larry Edwards when he was just a little teenage boy running around teaching, I think, or something.
While you were talking about, you were
Yeah.
talking about our age.
Yeah, I know it. I know it.
I remember when you all was kind of young teaching.
Yeah.
Both of you.
Well, I went to the 8th grade, and they moved me on up to senior and graduated me that same
Is
year.
that what it was?
But I was
Talk about
30.
advancement.
I was 30 years old, married with 2 children in the 8th grade, and they moved me.
Actually, I've told this story before, but Bob gave me the last whipping I ever got.
No, it wasn't me.
Well, I said, he used house clearing paddle.
You're mistaken. You're mistaken. I would never. A lot of people mistook Don Bean and me. I'm sure there's a McCraw boy somewheres that is a little old runny thing, weighs 40 pounds and skinny bones, and everybody picks on him. I just have never seen one though.
Okay, yeah.
You know.
I think everybody's back here right now. We
Say that's politics. Don't-
No,
Before we get started, I want to start out by saying, thank you all for taking the time to come out on a Monday night and talk about economic development a little bit. We've been working real hard over the last couple of months to try to put together a longer range vision of what we think the county could benefit from, what's possible. During this meeting, we want to try to get a lot of extra input, a lot of ideas. I don't want to eliminate very much tonight. I'd like to be able to kind of go through this and let you guys comment on maybe what you like or don't like. I'd like to be as brief as possible so when you get home, I need supper tonight, 9 o'clock. If you have extra comments, certainly add comments to it. This process tonight, I don't intend to take very much off the table. In fact, add things as you have ideas. So one of the things I want to do is everybody have a strategic plan proposed document. I do. Got about 7 more here. Anybody?
I just want.
Just interrupt me for 1 minute. I need to call up Board of Supervisors point of order. I shall do that now. All right, now go right ahead.
So, what we want to do tonight is go through this section by section. This will be a little bit of a laborious process, but I'd like to make sure that everybody understands kind of the sections that we laid out. I'm sure there'll be maybe a section or two that you may want to insert. You may want to add 3 or 4. That's your pleasure to bring as much into this as possible. But we'd like to go through this, make sure that everything's understood, and you get your comments. We'll make sure that everybody has time for comments tonight. And, as we maybe get into the depths of this thing, if the conversation drags on a little bit, I'm going to maybe just pop in and say, let's kind of hold that thought. We'll get it noted down and we'll move on. So 9 minutes to try to get through this whole thing. So if you've got the time, let's just go ahead and turn into section 1, goals and objectives. Start out by saying that all organizations need to have good goals and objectives, a good mission statement, a good vision and process, and that's what we intend to try to work through here. I don't really know what that is yet. We'll try to get a lot of input, not only the group around this table tonight, but citizens of the county, business leaders in the county, workers, educators. We want to have this to be an all-inclusive process. Certainly, we want part of the mission to be promoting economic growth and improving the quality of life for our residents. That's something I think we can all agree on. That's important. We want to determine the core mission of the EDA. We want it to increase, improve job growth, strengthen existing businesses, recruit new businesses, promote the area as a good place for business, increase tax base, manage existing assets and holdings. We can probably, everyone say that all those are noble ideas, but we may not be able to give the same attention to each one of them, to give the same weight to each one of those. So we may look for input from you guys as to what's important, the strategies for accomplishing some of those things. The third point there is very important to me. We want to become active and engaged in pursuing these economic outcomes. You know, there's a certain amount of things that just require a lot of money. Certain things require a lot of energy. You know, we can make a big impact just with a little bit of infusing of energy in some of these things, and focus, and some just networking, work, and marketing, and all those things. We need to be able to be active and engaged in trying to get some of these outcomes. We want to strengthen our toolbox, and as those of you that were here early on tonight, one of my goals is going to be to educate ourselves, get the VEDP involved, in what our outcomes should be. We want to try to find ways to figure out what we can do and what tools we have at our disposal to bring about improved economic outcomes. One of the things that we want to discuss is what's the categories that fit within our community framework. We're not Northern Virginia, but we're very vibrant and good at what we are down here. So we want to be able to bring our little location of Virginia into our vision and mission statement. We also don't want to reject some things that we could have. We want to say, just because we're not into a certain area doesn't mean that we couldn't compete well in those areas. So what are some of the areas of economic development that we could focus on a little bit more? For example, my business is a technology business. It's an automation engineering business. We're one of the only ones 100 miles around. So is there opportunities to bring talent back into the county that have an entrepreneurial spirit to bring some of those types of businesses back into the county? So on the next page, one of the things that I think is important is determining some metrics for success. We're going to do a lot of things. We want to be able to gauge whether what we're doing is effective. If we can go out and say that we've improved and added so many jobs, that's positive for all of us. If we can say that we increased the normalized tax base, that's positive for all of us. And that's what we want to be able to do, but we want to be able to figure out a way to measure it. So part of this plan would be to try to partner with outside people to have a year-over-year normalized way of seeing whether we've been successful. One of the last sections of section 1 that I've got here is develop a slogan. And I'm not saying that I'm a great slogan person, but I've got ideas, and one of the things that I've got up here on the board is something that I've had my graphics guy to do. It's a light bulb with, looks like some mixing tanks and various, you see the green rows right there. It's almost, if you get a picture of agriculture, you know, what we do in our agricultural component here. The slogan is, where Carroll County, Virginia, where ideas and business grow together. So something like that we could have a marketing campaign for this whole strategic plan. Now, I'm going to say that I tell people in my company that I'm not always right, but my default position is that I'm right until somebody comes up with better ideas. I'm just going to throw that out there and then challenge everybody to go out and come up with a better slogan or a better marketing tool than that. And I'm open for any ideas. So, I guess doing this one section at a time, I'm just going to kind of open it up, discuss section 1, discuss mission and vision, and get some of your all's ideas for the mission and vision for this county's economic development.
Are
Ricky, I honestly don't see us being able to do much for anybody until we can get a workforce that can fill some of these vacant positions. So me and Larry was just discussing a second ago, is our workforce is near nothing right now, and we can't, I don't know how we can help them until we can find out a way to increase the workforce. I think that's preventing anybody from looking at the area, because they look and see the unemployment rate is so low, and everybody and their brother's got help wanted signs out. And, I mean, I know the industry, in our industry, we've quit looking because you can't find nobody.
And to that point, I agree with that. You could look at almost any one point on here and say that this is the most important thing, you need to start there. So part of this is trying to raise the water level of every one of these areas a little bit. And maybe you focus on, as you say, workforce, maybe a little more determined than other things, but you're gonna have to, in my opinion, work on a lot of these things all at the same time. Put some weight of importance on not only workforce, but some of the other things that will attract people to come in, or entrepreneurs to start something.
I think we could attract people that's already living in the county that's working somewhere else. You know, that's one thing we can do, but we're gonna have to have jobs that pay a little bit higher than what we have at this point in time, but that's another option.
And I'll say this, one of the strategies, and I'm not saying I'm overly successful, one of the strategies that I've taken is I try to find some of the prospects while they're still in high school and track them while they're in college. And you'll see later on in this presentation that I keep contact with them, keep tabs on them, keep talking to them. And then while they're in college, I'm working on a position to hire the better ones as they come out. That's one strategy that we can kind of take, and it doesn't fix the problem all at once, but it allows us to track some of these better students that are going to come back and make a really positive influence on the county. So that's a good thing.
I think we probably need to consider a strong partnership with our educational, seems to me like we're pointing to technology and higher skilled, and, we've got people who have a master's degree in certain areas making less than the plumber and electrician. And there's a tremendous shortage of the trades. So I think we need to make sure we're covering all of those bases. I know we're having tremendous trouble finding skilled tradespeople.
To that point, a lot of the small businesses that I work with are in fact in those, and they are micro businesses, they're mom and pops, 5 employees, 10 employees. And one of the things that we've been talking about recently is, can we, through bodies like this, can we develop active apprenticeship and internship programs where the students get involved with the businesses? There's a European model that I'm familiar with, the company I worked for in North Carolina was Swiss owned, and getting those identified in the school system, those through the trade programs and so forth by the teachers and so forth, who is showing those kinds of proclivities, and getting programs in place where they actually can do genuine internships and apprenticeships that lead to good paying jobs when they get out of school. And a lot of the folks that will get into those are also entrepreneurial minded. So they develop into the next generation of entrepreneurs.
I know that the high school, one of the things that have come across that seems to be hard with apprenticeships is OSHA regulations. I mean, they make it so difficult to hire somebody that's less than 18 to come out and do an apprenticeship. But I do know that the high school over here teaches OSHA 1 in their first years of education, which should be able to help us get some kind of relief on that in these apprenticeship programs. Because I think apprenticeships are very important. Gives a child a chance to see if that's what they really want to do or not,
And one of the things that's always important to me is I'm hiring people is, can they do what I'm hiring them to do? And can they communicate and present well?
There you go.
And that's, I think, one of the things that we don't do a good job with, the trade skills and vocational education sometimes, is we teach someone how to weld, but then we don't teach some of those follow-up communication skills that make someone a good employee. And so it needs to be all kind of combined together. When I look at someone, I'm tempted to kind of focus in on how their resume is instead of, until I get to find out how good they are at the trade that they do. And that shouldn't be a restrictive thing. It should be that the resume is as good as the skill that they bring to the company.
From the simple to the hard to do, I had to go to Fort Chiswell today, and every time I go down 77, if you don't know where the industrial site sign is, you can't find it. And the easiest thing I'd recommend, I would volunteer to do it, but after my tractor accident, I don't think I need to be over there, but.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah, the alternative is worse, okay, but we need to have the frontal location of Wildwood completely cleared out to where people get an idea of what is there and what is available. And I'm thinking about dozing it off or clearing off not only our property, but the Virginia Department of Highways. They've got a ton of forest trees right there blocking it too. And as many thousand cars as pass there each day, I think that'd be the cheapest thing we could do. Now, would it produce results? I doubt it, but it might. But at least you could see it. The next thing, I wouldn't have a 4x6 sign up there about, I would have a sign up there that was like a tremendous billboard, and it would say, "Your industry here in 2,000 acres." All right. And the second part of that is, I still believe the airport is a drawing card. And I would have another sign on both sides of the interstate that said, jet-capable airport access to industrial site, or something that people could see. I mean, it's we can't compete with some places, but dadgum, a lot of places can compete with us in our airport and so forth. That'd be the two first things. And and was it Larry and two or three others said about apprentice jobs. I think a vocational part at Carroll County High School could be set up. If you go to Virginia Tech, they farm and business guys and even the agriculture guys. They're in Michigan and all over. Now, I don't think we can afford to send to pay for our kids to go to Michigan, but there are factories in this area that might be willing to take in an apprentice out of the vocational department, a student, and hopefully we could pay them just a minimum wage, but they would get an experience with your company for a week, pulling them out for an hour a day. Now, I realize it'd be like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, looking at the whole thing. But I think you could do something at your place with a kid. You could have somebody working at the Gazette or Carroll News, and some folks and some kids working at some industries around, or a something like a small business or even a farming. And I think that, and call it an apprentice situation. Another thing is, I'm not sure we can compete fully with Fairfax, but I've always felt there has to be job fairs scattered. And why can't we make contact with some of these businesses in Northern Virginia? And surely there are job fairs scattered. Why can't we send a person to a job fair? We do that with teachers. We send out people at Carroll County, Billboard, and teach in Carroll. Why couldn't you do that? Locate your business in Carroll County and contact these businesses, okay? Maybe one of these companies would think about downsizing or satelliting something over. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I had something else that I was meant to write down, I didn't. But there are a lot of things that would not be expensive that we could showcase the county more than it is, and oh, I know what it was. We need to be aggravating the state of Virginia business, their little office there. We need to aggravate them to death, okay? That they should be called every day. We should be up there visiting. What do you got in mind for Carroll County? And what do you got available that we can meet with? And when are you going to send them? And the next thing is that President Trump has already did a study and having people working on it about, because I attended one of like two for the state of Virginia, to 200 people from 49 states, and it was they studied rural prosperity and what does the United States need to do for rural prosperity. And they had identified all of these things. One of the hot buttons, though, was broadband. But the second thing that hits Carroll County face on, and that was the first starting point that Sonny Perdue mentioned, and he had all the secretaries from all these from all the departments there, and they made up the committee. But Secretary Perdue, the United States population, if they can get a fence on the border, because it'll be 400 million next month sometime if they don't. But he made the point was made that in the year 2050, the United States population will be 400 million. And guess what? New York City is not going to grow the food, and neither is Chicago and Los Angeles. Where's it coming from? It's going to come from rural America. And by the way, 2050, how many years is that from now?
31.
31. It's not 100 years, it's 31 years. And I think we need to do a better job of working with the president and Sonny Perdue about locating some of these things. And with the Trump, I'm glad that all these companies are locating. Where are they locating? They go to Michigan, they go to South Carolina, they go everywhere, maybe Northern Virginia. But I think we need to put the pressure on the White House and Sonny Perdue there are smaller industries. Why can't one of them locate here? And that's my thinking on it, okay? I don't think it would be tremendously expensive, because we don't have the money right now to do it. But some of those things might work.
I want to agree with you on one thing and disagree with you on one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
You
Go ahead and hit me. All right.
The idea of bugging Richmond is a good idea. I've heard people tell me a state trade mission to get a group of economic-minded people here in the county that go
Amen.
visit
I agree with you.
Richmond once every 6 months. You know,
That-
in other words, keep our name and our agenda before.
I'm not criticizing either party for when they're governor, okay? But it's usually a dog and pony show to someplace, it's never to Venezuela, I guess, or somewhere's out in the desert. It's more of a,
So the part that I disagree with is that we can't compete with Fairfax County.
I think we can.
I think we can. And the reason I like this slogan is because where ideas and business grow together,
Yeah.
we've got just as good ideas.
Oh, yeah.
What they've got is better roads and better malls and traffic.
And more people and traffic jams and so forth.
So my
And-
thing is that I want us to kind of get it out of our system, but I don't like to, I do not like to say that we can't compete with Northern Virginia.
I agree
Because-
with you
because I like-
100%.
I like to kind of throw the other thing around.
But-
Given a fair playing field in the realm of ideas,
Can't compete with us.
they can't compete with us.
Yeah.
And I compete with them all the time.
Yeah.
I would rather be where I'm at,
The-
out here competing.
We need to do a better job of selling ourselves. And I'm gonna sell Dr. Littrell at public auction next week sometime. And throw in a Model A.
I'm sure the check
You
will
know, I
bounce and
think
nobody
that's
will.
something else that we need to explore is why are our businesses here choosing people that are not from here when you have Carroll County residents that are just as qualified? I'm a product right here sitting at this table. I have a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees and have been turned down twice by the county. And that's discouraging because you're not going to find anybody else who wants to stay here more than me and cares more about this area. I mean, you might, but why would anybody want to stay? I mean, why would I want to stay here? Whenever my own county
That's
doesn't
exactly
believe in
what
me.
my
Well-
mother tells me every single time, you better hire somebody from Carroll County.
When
Yeah.
my own county
And-
doesn't believe in me or the work that I can perform, and the school system, I have, like I said, 2 master's degrees, almost 10 years of experience under my belt, and within the next 3 years, my plan is to have a PhD, and the school system hired somebody from Pulaski County. I think that, yeah, the unemployment rate is bad. Yes, we don't have people who don't want to work, but at the same time, why are we not talking to these business owners and to our own county and saying, look, we have this talent. Why are we not utilizing this talent? Not that I'm talented, but
There could possibly be some changes on the school board. I'm looking around the room, Carroll County boy, Carroll County boy, Carroll County boy, Carroll County girl, Carroll County boy, I think, throw in a couple of churches, Carroll County boy, a
How did you come here?
a
He's been here long
southerner.
enough to be
That's right.
a
Yeah,
character.
I
Carroll County boy, Carroll County girl,
I mean-
and right down, there's a ton of them, but
I mean, I realize that I have something set at the end of the table working against me to get a job here. I'm not dumb, I know that. But it's unfortunate that I'm probably not the only person that's had this problem.
it's
I'm
hard.
probably not the only person that's had this problem.
It's-
I'm probably the only one who's going to voice it and get in trouble for it.
It's hard to
But-
be a prophet in your own land, and a lot of folks have the idea that, well, she is from Carroll County, and that'd be a negative to start with, or, I mean, and
I
that's not
just think
true.
that if we're exploring all this other stuff and what
Yeah.
can make it better, that's something that we should be looking at too.
Yeah,
And
I
we need to-
agree.
We need to educate Carroll County. This is a relationship, you know, Nautilus came to Grayson County because the pilot was flying over, and he was from Grayson County, and he told, well, why don't you locate your new plant here? That's what they built. And you can, there's a lot of, you know, Carroll County's known, I've been fortunate to travel quite a bit, even internationally. You tell them, where are you from? Well, you ever been down 77, you seen Fancy Gap Mountain?
No.
90% of the people know
Yeah.
Fancy Gap Mountain. But
Yeah.
it needs to be a team effort that everybody is promoting Carroll County.
I agree.
Yeah, we can be negative, there's a lot of things, you know,
There,
back to hiring people. What business owner told me Friday, you know, I've hired 3 or 4 people and trained them, and now they've gone to Charlotte, they're doubled their wages.
Yeah.
Can't blame them. My
Yeah.
grandson, he did an internship, left, he's going law instead of,
but,
he'll go to DC.
yeah,
Simple as that, that's where the money's at.
well,
But if we can get everybody promoting, but where are those people coming back to when they get ready to retire? I'd love to know the statistics. How many of our young people are we losing? But then they're returning
Yeah.
at 55 or 60.
and you're right, but I'll tell you something else. We got a ton of people from down south and New Jersey and so forth that are coming in here because we're halfway between Florida and Michigan, and
That's
it's,
great. When you, on the financial, what we look at is the spending curve.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't spend there as much as I did when I was 30 and had 2 kids.
yeah,
I
yeah.
had a brother taught and coached in Carroll County, had the education to be a principal. He retired. He was a coach and a teacher. Why did he stay in Carroll County? Why didn't he go to Surrey? He got to be a principal, no doubt, you know? I mean, you know?
I made up my mind I was gonna live and marry and die in Carroll County, and
You're certainly working on your dying.
I'm trying. And my wife came to the tractor and got down on her knees, and she said, Bob, honey, where are the life insurance policies on you at? And I said, but
But I meet people, at least 5 to 8 people a week that have relocated here. And they're all retirement age, second home. We want to live here, we want to finish up our life here.
builds your, and
People that leave, go away, they think they're going to make it a good living, and they don't realize the stress that they're putting themselves in. They don't realize the rat race that they're going to live in when they're living in Fairfax or they're living in Charlotte.
Here's my take on it. Does anybody believe that we're gonna fix this thing in 1 year?
no, no.
Anybody believe we're gonna fix it in 5 years?
No.
Make a start.
You make a start in 5 years.
Yeah.
The way you make a start is you begin to engage the high school students that you have now, and instead of them coming back when they're 50 and looking to retire because they remember what a great place it was to grow up, you begin to stem the tide of them leaving, and you let them think about being entrepreneurs, and at the very least, bringing some of their talents to the county and in the early parts of their life instead of the later parts of their life. There are always, hurdles to overcome, and.
I get so
and I'm
frustrated.
sensitive to that. But my way of looking at it is through entrepreneurship, it's through engaging these young people and taking a 10-year view to it.
Yeah.
That's really everything that I'm
I
about.
think too, that kind of brings you back to the other thing that's on here, because this is something we explored some time back when you talk about what are the categories. I think sometimes if the vision is too broad, it gets hard to focus. And some of the things in this area they're not only natural to the area in terms of what makes sense for vocations and for economic development, but they're also in the people. there are things as far as the people themselves, you're talking about who's native and so forth. And I think maybe that's part of the issue, is that if we were to focus on making the business environment more conducive to the success of particularly micro businesses, back to the schools. You know, a young man whose business plan I worked on some years back, he wanted to be a dairy farmer. Who wants to do that anymore? But
Nobody can make money at
But he
it.
grew up in it, and he was looking for the opportunity to be able to continue to stay in that. So, you know, while I think it's great to have Wildwood and also be looking at how can we get larger interests out of Wildwood, if you're talking about holding people and not having them leave for the money, that's in Charlotte or wherever, being able to tap into, because what's great about this is what people don't know. What's great about here is you can have it both ways. You can have a quality of life and still make a good living, but it's a challenge. And if we can support that by figuring out in this plan, how do we put in place the steps that get us to where the 18-year-old doesn't want to leave, they want to get their education, maybe they want to go to college, but they've already got a plan for what they're going to do when they come back, or when they step.
On over in your presentation, Rick, you talk about the foundations. I think it'd be great to get like the Carroll County Scholarship Foundation to agree to do some type of incentive for kids that are willing to go to college, if they want to go to college, but come back here.
Yeah.
You know, and track, like you say, track them through that and bring them back to something here that's going to benefit them and benefit us.
And I'm glad Robbie's pushed us over into section 2.
I didn't mean to do that. I just
Because he started out talking about workforce, and then he ended up talking about foundations. So let's go ahead and move over to section 2. And I'll just leave you with section 1 on this. We need to be thinking about a vision and how to communicate that vision. And one of the things that I've heard is, you know, we're very proud of what we are. And we don't need to change who we are. We need to take a longer-term, realistic view of things and be able to communicate that in a way where we can, and all not get discouraged after 1 year or 2 years and don't see anything happen. Taking a multi-year approach to it. So that's one thing I've heard about section 2. Section 2 is we want to identify and engage local and regional stakeholders. And basically, there are some of them that are the obvious ones: business leaders, educators, and students. Robbie brought up the workforce. And, I think a lot of times they're talked about from an academic standpoint, but they're not engaged directly. So we need to figure out a way to bring them directly into the conversation, and how can we help them be a better part of this equation. You know, are there things that we can do, things that we can bring them, off-site training? We've got a lot of good community centers. Could have some training with some of those that's hosted by Lithgow Community College or somebody to bring up some of their marketable skills.
I would love to hear a guidance counselor or a school or an educator not push college to somebody. I mean, that's what they want to do, is push college, but in vocational.
I'll say this, and I don't want to bring my personal story into it too much, but when I went to Carroll County High School back in 78, 79, I guess, it's the 2 years I was there, you had clear vocational wing and you had the academic wing. And so the academic wing was for the kids that go to college, vocational wing was down there for the kids that were going to work. Well, I was one of those troubled kids, I guess, that was confused. I was taking the physics and things like that on the academic wing, but I was taking electronics down on the far end of the vocational wing. And I heard the guidance counselor tell somebody down there when they were trying to explain what that was. They said, well, that's for people that like to play with radios and TVs, and if you like that sort of thing, you might like this. Well, that was the farthest thing from what that class was. And it just didn't describe how difficult, you know, and how academically challenging that was. When I went to New River in my first year, I really didn't even have to hardly work because I had such a good program at Carroll County. It wasn't until my second year that I really got into something challenging. And then, you know, kind of build it into something else after.
It's one of those things where the educators need to be educated about what actually is going on in that section.
And so I'm 58 years old right now, and if I've not learned anything else, there is no division anymore between skills and your the academic, the college band. You know, there's a very blurred line all the way through, where people that go out and will start a business, you know, they may be a good welder or a good machinist, and they start a machine shop. Well, man, they've got to be able to market their services, write business plans, do some accounting, and yeah, they got to do some janitorial services too. Because, you know, when they start out as a one-person entrepreneur, they got to do everything. They got to know how to go talk to Kay at the bank and put a loan, and not cry when she turns it down. So you know, it's blended. You know, it's not just you go off to college and you learn an academic thing, and then you go to the vocational school.
And then what you're saying, a little, somewhere along the line, was it Rex, you invented the internet and stuff, and computers, and it just took off, and electronics, hello, every kid in Carroll County has got a cell phone, and those kind of things. I mean, and a lot of them are educated right at home on the computer, you know.
Look at Whipple Community College, they're laying people off now, they're getting ready to redirect towards career technical education.
Yeah.
I mean, so that, at least somebody is getting it, you know, that's.
Are the people at this table aware of the really handy industrial arts building that's being built in Joy Ranch?
I'm familiar with the building, I don't know what it,
That was, I had to rotate off the board, but I sat on the board for when I was a volunteer, and treasurer, that's always my job. But there was a woman who donated through her will, a very substantial amount of money, and there was stipulations as to how it could be used. And what they're doing out there is that, it's named for the woman, her name is Ruby Handy, and it's called the Ruby Handy Industrial Arts Building. And the intent is to be able to teach the young people on the ranch skilled, skills that they can use, whether it's auto mechanics or whether it's welding. Now it's going to take time to put that in place. But
Aren't they having woodworking too?
Pardon?
Woodworking?
Woodworking too. And one of the things that was talked about as a specific objective of this is getting in touch with people within the county educational system, the political system, etc. And they've already reached out once to Vanguard about being involved in this to allow that building to be used as not just for the student, not just for the kids there at Joy Ranch, but actually for the community youth through the school programs and so forth. I didn't know if y'all are even aware that that's going on.
didn't know that was a purpose, I knew what the building was, but didn't have a purpose.
So on, I think, the third page of it, section 2, I talk about private foundations. And I want to kind of highlight that, because at the end of the day, there's only so much that we can do through government as far as spending taxpayer funds. If you really want to be impactful on any of this stuff, you begin to find ways to get private money into it. And so what I would like to see happen, and I'm not saying that we sanction it, but, with a little bit of encouragement in a few of the existing foundations, or maybe even start a new foundation. But through the networks, if we were to all kind of work our networks, we'd be surprised, how much very prosperous people that would want to come back and contribute to the growth of Carroll County that we could tap into. So my thing is, we could talk about it, or we could kind of put a plan together to be able to do something. We all know people that we graduated with. I didn't get to go to the class reunion. Robbie told me what all I missed. But there are people that come back to that reunion that have done very well. And all of us, know people that have done very well. If we talk and go out and work our networks and everything, we begin to find people that have a passion for, we tap into that thing of 50 years old and you're coming back to the county. Why? Because you love it. So you tap into some of the money, that people have, that they're 50 years old, 60 years old, they've made a good living, they've left all that they dare leave to their kids. Maybe they want to leave some of that money to the foundation that then promotes a place that they grew up and loves. My thing is, there's a lot of potential to be tapped into right there. And, I'd like us to kind of fully explore what could be done with private money instead of.
The With Bland Foundation, I think I'm right, every graduating senior in With County and Bland County, they're guaranteed tuition to enter Withville Community College.
That's exactly right. And actually, I had a list of 4 foundations right here that people could go back and research. And With Bland Foundation is
Yeah.
one of them. It'd be great if we could have something like that around here. And some of the advantages I listed on there is, just funding the same types of things that With Bland does, is scholarship to Withville, entrepreneurial programs, arts and cultural programs, some of these space camps, things where these kids get accepted into some of these NASA space camps.
Huntsville, Alabama.
That's great stuff. And
Oh, yeah.
There needs to be no limitation for kids that have the intellectual capability to do that sort of thing, to want to go. And, to the extent that we can kind of bring in some private money to do that, to me, that's a great thing.
25 years ago, I went to Virginia Aviation Commission, and they had monies available to push kids into aviation programs. Could it be, working on a car, but, airplanes have to be refurbished, right? Right, Dr. Littrell? And we got an airport minutes away from the high school, and why not have a aviation mechanics school there and rebuild some airplanes? And there's a shortage of pilots.
And you've hit the nail on the head right there. I don't think I'd have ever wanted to be a commercial pilot. Dr. Littrell might want to chime in on that a little bit. But in my mid-40s, I decided I wanted to learn how to fly. And there's not a better hobby for a person that's technically or scientific minded. I don't think, because you're learning weather. And, if you're like me, you had an interest in radios and communications. And, you're learning all the things about these foreign places called airports, and how you navigate the different types of air traffic. And those are the type of things that we encourage kids to get into at a young age, that then blossoms into something much bigger. I wish I'd have got into it a little bit earlier, 45 still.
Rex and Dr. Littrell strongly encouraged me after my tractor wreck to take up flying.
It's
And
much safer than tractors and motorcycles.
We're talking about Bob.
At least we got Bill Bryant, who does the helicopters, he builds helicopters and sells them. And we have the youth group at the airport that's, I know my cousin is, got, I think he's got his license recently. He was out of high school about a year. So, we have, it's there, it's, I believe, for more people, but I guess.
Probably not the appropriate way to ask the question, but I'm not aware of any scholarships or foundations in Carroll County, is there?
The Carroll Scholarship Foundation is a big funder, but as far as with
is that
Bland,
through the high school, excuse me?
well, the Rotary Club has a lot to do with that, but I don't know, it's not mandated by the high school.
But
There
that's
are-
for higher education, not for trades.
Well, there's a variety of different scholarships that are available, so it just depends.
There are a lot of people that we miss out on. I had a neighbor, a widow, retired teacher in Northern Virginia, and she wanted to do something. And I suggested she give some money to Carroll County High School, but she would have put it in a foundation. She wrote a check for $50,000, and I think we could do a foundation and let it grow for 10 years or whatever. Make no withdrawals and never take out more than 50% of the interest, and the other 50% kept growing. I think there are a lot of people that would consider doing something like that.
I do also. And you start thinking, when's the best time to do it? Yesterday is the best time to start. You know, we gotta, the
Yeah.
sooner we get started, the sooner we start getting.
Yeah, but I think it needs to be more private, and it's a little helter-skelter, and,
With private foundations, you get, in my opinion, less of the negative sides
Yeah.
of funding.
Yeah,
But every
and-
time we get into government, we get into,
And-
if I pay just a little bit of tax, and you pay $10,000 of tax,
Well,
then I have just as much of a voice in how that
Right,
public money is
right.
spent.
But-
With foundations, you know, it gets into
yeah,
a little more
and,
direct. and
you know,
less
I went to Whitfield Community College, and there wasn't any money from, to be had then, and somewhere they started that with Bland Foundation, and, you know,
So, I think let's give some consideration to who we have to engage. And private foundations is a good place to engage some of the time and efforts. The other things that I want to talk about just a little bit is infrastructure is always important. And if we are lacking in some things in this area, it is in the infrastructure, primarily around mobile phones and cell towers and things like that. But there are things that we can do to progressively kind of improve those things. Just kind of look for your guidance on ways to improve the infrastructure side of Section 2.
you gotta think out of the box,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
whole lot.
Section 3 is identify and engage professional and governmental resources, and that's, for those of you that came early today, one of the things I want to do with the EBA is get out of this conference room. We had a lady from BEDP come and spoke to us tonight. Next month, we'll go to Parkdale. You know, we'll try to just get people to come in and share different points of view, both from the state and from our local business community. Listen to them, try to find out what their ideas are. A lot of that is just going out and giving people the opportunity to educate you a little bit. I also had a section in there about the EDA executive director, just, you know, when you're pursuing that type of individual, some of the things that are important. I'll say this, the bottom part right there to me is the most important thing, passion for economic development. I'll say that from Saleo right here. I've learned a lot from him in the last month or two. Just not a lot, not only facts, but a lot of, you know, just his passion and energy for the job. And I appreciate what he's taught. One of the things though that I will, and when Bob's talking about thinking out of the box, we need a staff. We need to figure out a way, maybe not short-term, but long-term, we need an economic development staff. That can be a lot of ways to get there. A paid position, an internship position, partly funded, maybe find a grant somewhere to get part of it as an educational process. But we need to be able to have a solid foundation where people are working on this type of thing every day and looking for opportunities, networking and talking. There's also the positive outcome of not losing your, I can't remember what the exact term is, but the institutional memory of everything. And you no doubt will transition person to person. You know, if you have the staff, you end up maintaining that focus of the institutional memory and keep going forward. So we tend to sometimes cycle up and down and have to regroup. And that's never a helpful thing in the long term. So I would just encourage some thought on how we can make some money available in the long term to create a more functional staff. Section 4 is, we've already had some talk about this, but identify and engage our brightest young talent at the secondary level. And I've got something that just sounds hokey enough, no pun intended, to be successful. And I've talked with some of my young employees about it, is engage with these students over at Virginia Tech. Go to the engineering department, take a few boxes of pizza and a few 2-liter Cokes and sit down with them and say, what are you doing? Invite your friends, because we're gonna have some free food. You know, we're gonna take pizza, and I've never seen a college student yet that'll pass out a free meal. So you go in and you just track these kids and follow them through to Radford, to Virginia Tech, to the community colleges, and you kind of move this thing around, and you get, you know, it doesn't have to be the same people all the time. Robbie and Larry could, you know, go one 3-month period and go visit. Me and Ronnie could go, you know, one time and just sit down and have it where we have a 10-minute presentation. Here's what we're doing. And then just have one student that we've tracked through Carroll County. You know, and I brag on my employees a little bit, a Kenny Meredith type, where you know when you ask him to do it, he's gonna do it. Just say, give us a 10-minute presentation on what you're doing here at Virginia Tech. And then, you know, it's just keeping a physical contact, not just sending emails, but going over there and actually.
Most of these little startup ideas and businesses, it don't require a $50 million investment.
You're now where I'm at. You know,
Yeah.
we want to compete in the ideas. You know, if we can get, you know, the people that have the ideas, and the people that in 10 years are going to have the ideas, we want to maintain contact with those people. Because it's the entrepreneurs that, you know, you might have 20 of them, and 19 of them might be terrible. But, you know, we want to be involved with all 20 so that we can have that 20th one that has that Steve Jobs type of idea. Maybe not that big.
Virginia Tech is doing a lot on medical research with taking, well, like pigs and putting human genes in there and stuff, and you know, I'm sure somebody's got an idea of doing something else, and maybe we could get them. You know.
My whole thing, if you kind of read through the flavor of this thing, is entrepreneurship. You know, trying to encourage entrepreneurship and trying to reward it and trying to bring that back. That's where we can compete. And my belief, we can compete better than anybody else, because that's what, you know, when I look around at my friends and I look around at Robbie and those, that's the people that you want to get, the people that have just got good ideas. And try to keep them in the So Section 5 is more of a tactical thing, determine our target areas, and again, you see entrepreneurship. The industry, we want to find out what we can leverage, or what we already have that can be attractive to larger companies. I'm of the opinion that if you were just going after I use the phrase, the Walmart distribution center, and that's all you're ever focusing on. If I could just get a Walmart distribution center, put there at exit 19 and hire 500 people, everything would be great. Well, you know, there's a lot of things that have to happen before that happens. And so if we can focus on the smaller companies, where one day there's going to be an executive from Walmart ride through and say, man, yeah, there's a lot of this company and this company and this company. There are a lot of what I call feeder companies and smaller entities. There's a lot of that. You know, we've done our research into demographics, and so because of that reason, and now we think this is the best place to be. So I think, in my opinion, there's a lot of kind of stepping stone type things to get to the point where one day you'll attract that industry up there that has 500 employees and all making $20 an hour. One of the things that I don't think we should overlook is service type industries. And when you talk with a lot of the folks from Withrow Community College, they talk about a certified workforce, but it ends up being certified OSHA type things. It doesn't get into what companies are wanting. And a lot of the certifications that companies are wanting are in these various programs, these statistical programs. If you're going to operate a machine, they in a high level machine, they want you to know a little bit of statistical process control. They don't want you to be a statistician, but they want you to know the basics and why are you doing things. entering in a value, you know why you're entering in a value. You know, so if we can find out some of the things from businesses, what type of skills, what's the basic level of skills they want their operational folks to have, and then start working on these workforce certification programs to try to bring our folks that are interested in that sort of thing, when the opportunity comes, and do a step forward. That's a hard process, though, because every business is wanting a little bit of a different twist on things. But the key there is to figure out what are some of the common things that a lot of businesses want to be able to offer them. So the tourism thing is something that I'm gonna confess. I do read the Galax Hot. So I shouldn't, but I do. And one of the things that they're always talking about on that is just tourism can't be the answer for everything. But tourism can be a part of it. And you know, if you don't believe that's true, just go down to our neighbors just to the south of us and see what an industry they've made out of Andy Griffin's childhood. You know, there's almost nothing down there that is truly from the show, but they've made a whole industry out of an idea. So, you know, what I'm thinking about is what are our things that we could leverage for tourism. You know, we have some of the most beautiful rivers and creeks and mountains around here. You know, so are there things that we can do to promote some of the outdoors? Like we have our history, we have all our plays and dramas that we have around here. How can we package all that? So I've just kind of asked us to consider, just that as a tool in our toolbox. We're not saying that we're going to become a gap alert, but that is a component of it. I don't think we should just dismiss and say we shouldn't be part of it.
Mandy was sharing with me this evening about an article that the Gazette had run about how much tourism had brought to the area, $3 million or something just this past year.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but there was a significant increase in the tourism Grayson, Carroll, and Galax. And Carroll's was well over $1 million, I believe.
We have
It
a
was
lot-
front page.
We have a lot of things to leverage.
I've often thought that we could develop more trails, and there's sort of a ton of trucks that go with four-wheelers to West Virginia. I can tell you that, they come to us.
So I think section 6 is about my most important part. Anybody that's ever done much of the business knows that you have the most successful business and the smartest employees and the best product. But if you can't market that in some way and get people to know what you have, then you're not going to do very well. You're going to kind of hit your ceiling pretty soon. So, one of the things that I believe as a group we need to focus on first is the message. And I just kind of pose several questions here. This is not a complete list by any stretch of the imagination, but it gets us started. Why Carroll County? We sit around here and we talk about how much we love this county and how, just with a little bit of luck, a little bit of the right opportunity, we'd be able to improve our economic prospects and our standard of living and quality of life. But the fact is that every county around here, and probably every county that we know of, has the same hope. And when you start listing what their assets are, they have a lot of the same great assets. And I love our airport over there, Bob. There are other counties that have good airports too, and they're trying to market and leverage their good airports. So we need to be able to answer the question, why Carroll County? And what makes us different? And why would somebody pick up a $30 million business or expand a business and invest $30 million in our county? So it sounds simple, but we need to be able to answer that question. And what is unique about us? How do we describe it? We've got to be able to describe it in words, or you're not going to have a good marketing plan. And what's our value add? What do we have that you can get here in Carroll County that you're not gonna be able to get in Grayson County, or Pulaski County, or Floyd County? What can we contribute to your success or your entrepreneurial idea that other people around us can? I think we get then into one other, how do we describe our future? And somebody said a while ago, we're positive. I think, Larry, you've been able to promote our future in a positive way. So when we talk about where we're going to be at 10 years from now, we have an optimistic hope and we have a positive outlook on what our future is. We have to figure out a way to message that. Then, what are we willing to do to prepare for our future? It's one of those things that we'll kind of brainstorm a bunch of ideas, but then what are we going to be able to excite the citizens of the county with what they're willing to do as individuals to prepare for that? There was a story I read one time about a lady that was, I think she was 48 years old. The person was asking her what she wanted to do with her life. She said, well, I always wanted to go to college. She said, but I just never did. And the person asked her, said, well, why don't you just go? She said, you got the money, you don't have anything pressing right now, why don't you just go? And she said, well, if I went, I'd be 52 or 53 years old in 4 or 5 years when I get out. And the person asked her, well, how old are you going to be in 4 or 5 years if you don't go to college? And so that's a little bit of the outlook that I say we have to bring to the people. We have to say, there are a few things that we're going to do, that we're going to try to get businesses to do, we're going to try to get educators to do. How are we going to communicate to the average person out there that wants us to be successful, what their role is? I don't have an idea as to what that is, but I'd like for you all to think about, how does a person that's out there, that's going to be impacted greatly by a program, how do we communicate to them what their role needs to be in all this, and how their role then will hopefully impact whether we're ultimately successful or not. I have a lot of questions. I don't have all the answers. I have a lot of questions. And I think what's important, what about our values and heritage makes us better? I tell people all the time that if you knew my father, you'll know me. So if you knew my father, then he's my resume. But I also say if you knew my mother, don't hold that against me. So that way I don't have to write a resume. I'm just relating to my mom and dad. But those parents taught me some things that were of great value to me, and they taught them to me because they learned them from this county. So, we need to be able to communicate what those values and heritage are and how that makes us better. I think one of the best things is how do we respond to a challenge, and give up quick, or get mad, blame everybody else. We need to be able to explain and message ourselves as we relish the challenge. We look forward to it, and we believe that we can be better at overcoming the challenge than Fairfax. That's where, when I get to trying to compare my company to Fairfax County, I use things like that. I say, they give up quick. I won't give up. My folks won't give up. So we need to be able to come up with, just quick turns of words to be able to cleverly market ourselves in a way that say, I don't want to go to Fairfax County. I don't want to go to Prince William County. I want to go to Carroll, because those folks won't give up. So then, I think we put 95% of our energy into the message, and then after that, everything becomes easy. And you put all your money into a video. Okay? And I say that being very honest. We need to be able to market our message to a world that gives you 20 seconds to capture their attention. If you haven't got their attention in 20 seconds, forget it. So we need to figure out a way to take that message, boil that message down into a 20 or 30-second creative video, do about 4 of them, and then figure out how to market this to the people may then have an impact and bring.
You got somebody right here in this room can do that. That young lady right over there, I've seen several of her videos.
So that's where we,
She's done an awesome job.
that's where we leverage what we have.
I may be wrong, but if you boil it down to it, I've been in 20 or 30 counties in the last 6 months. Everybody's got a site, they got money. There's one thing that makes the difference. People.
Yeah.
We can make the difference.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a site, but I can show you 30 more. It's equal or better.
That's right.
But we've got to promote Carroll as the people.
Like the actual note I made under the video thing on Monday, right before you opened your mouth, was internet personalities.
Yeah.
Representatives that represent the 3 or 4 people that represent what Carroll County is as people. And internet personalities are how you get that attention. So it's-
One thing I'd really, since I spent most of my life in the financial area, I'd love to see our school systems do more financial literacy. I mean, so many people that cannot manage money. And I'm not talking about people that are making.
They have a
money.
class right now that teaches it.
Good.
Good.
We've
they
offered
what?
$2,500 per
They what?
school system for years. To my knowledge, very few school systems have ever taken advantage of it.
And it's a huge drawback for people that do have good ideas and want to go into business and actually could make a business. That's what I do for a living.
You echo me. You know, when I meet somebody making $150,000 and they can't make their credit card payments, I question what's going on.
So, you know, beyond the video, there are lots of things that we need to be able to do to promote ourselves. Once we get the message, social media, you know, it's love it or hate it, it's the age that we live in.
That can be done without money.
Yeah.
I've got a spot on my station video, I'd be willing to donate part of it. You know, you're gonna be talking to mostly Carroll County people, but there's a lot of out-of-town people who decide. Doesn't cost anything except to make a video.
So we get down into print media, and you know, once you start getting into trade shows and being able to market yourself through state trade missions and things like that, you need something that you can have in your hand and hand out. You need to have a brochure, you need to have a pamphlet, a book, something that you can put in somebody's hand, because when I talk to people, the ones that I forget the quickest are the ones that didn't put something in my hand or make a big impression. So if we can have, you know, some type of effort to get that message boiled down, put it on a trifold pamphlet, and make our trade missions to Richmond or Washington or Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I've always wanted to go there. Whatever we have something to put in somebody's hand. So 7 and 8 are, in my opinion, intuitive, but we still need to kind of circle back around and take care of it from time to time. Section 7 is communicate with our stakeholders. So, this is a good first step. One of the things I want to do is kind of have 100% transparency. You know, talk to people, get out, visit industry, visit small business, share with them. Once we kind of begin to get your all's ideas flowing in and begin to kind of boil this plan down to its essence a little bit, get out and talk to people. What do you think? How are we doing? Are we doing a good job? Are we headed in the right direction? And just some good old retail politics. And they'll tell you whether you're doing the right thing. And some of them, they'll tell you that you're doing the wrong thing. They just not understand what we're doing. So we have to be able to communicate our message. We have to be able to sell our message. And I'm gonna tell you what, if we can't sell it to our own citizens, you know, we can't sell it to the outside world. We can't convince our own people that we're on the right track. We're not gonna be successful trying to encourage people to come in. in the last section, section 8, we got to make sure that we can make course corrections. One of the things people have asked me, what's the secret to having an upstart business and being successful at it? And my thing is we've got to have a very detailed plan, and then at the right moment, when the opportunity comes, you got to be able to throw that plan out the window and be opportunistic. So I say that a little bit jokingly, but don't throw the plan out. But if something just pops right up, we have to be flexible enough to be opportunistic when we should be. And we need to be able to make a course correction. If we see something that's just not working for us, we need to be able to say, hey, we put a lot of energy into it. And I'm here to tell you, this is my way of looking at it. Our energy is worth more than our money. You know, we're never going to compete financially with Fairfax County, Fauquier County, and Prince William County, but we can, spend more energy. And so we don't want to spend energy that is going to be wasted. We want to be able to, after 2 or 3 years, 4 years, figure out what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, and then invest our energy into the things that are going to get good returns for us. So we want to be able to sustain this thing. And if you keep putting your energy into something that's not successful, you'll just be drained. So any other comments? There's a lot of good comments, and I've taken a lot of good notes. I'll say this: is there anything that you just don't like about the plan? Is there anything that when you just look at it, it just says no, we shouldn't do it or shouldn't be involved?
Do you think we should invite somebody from the school system to periodically come to the EDA meetings, and maybe tour with y'all when you go to these other places? And maybe even add someone from the town of Hills, Bob's from the town of Hills, but the town itself.
I think Jay Holderfield might be good to do that if you agree. Let's go over to
I don't care, that's up to y'all. But those are things that would be good to bring those folks in, I think.
I agree.
Either assistant superintendent or a superintendent, just like, let them hear what's going on.
You tend to buy into the program.
We should have done this, but, not thinking in
Yeah.
hindsight, we probably should have done it, but it would be good to bring those folks in.
I agree. Because one of the things, when I look back, when I was a kid, space programs in its heyday, every person in America wanted that to be successful. So that's the kind of energy and excitement I'd kind of like to see the county get in, and make this something where everybody kind of look at it and say, what can I do? You need somebody to stuff envelopes? I'll come up on Tuesdays and stuff envelopes. It's kind of the excitement that we had back in the 60s. I could cut out my little lunar lander on the cereal box. Everybody bought in.
The biggest thing that ESPN talked about in Virginia Tech was the robot that was doing the push-ups the week before, a week or 2 weeks before. I thought that was just a big deal.
All right, any other questions or comments? I'll say this, that as I think all of you have my email now, as you think of things, no matter how insignificant you think they are, shoot them to me, or ideas that you have, something that we need to be thinking about. I want to make sure that we have as many ideas as possible. So, Lil, we've not included you at all, and I apologize.
I got
for
back
it.
here, I wanted to listen. I've taken a bunch of notes, and if I have an opportunity, I'd like to say a couple of things when you get to that point.
I'm at that point.
Okay. I've been the next door neighbor and been here all my life. There's a couple things I think we all got to decide. Number one, who are we? This is in what do we want? Thirdly, we've got it appears to me, outsider, and a taxpayer, that we're sometimes very divisive in how we want to go about things. We've got an EDA, we've got a Reseda. We should have a centralized focus on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. Who we are and what we are thing really has to really start at home and in the school system at an early age, that the teachers talk about being prideful of the county. I mean, when we all grew up, we were prideful of the country, et cetera, but you've got to teach that at an early age. And instead of saying negative things about the county, we always should say how great we've got. You know, some of the things we have that nobody else, except in Virginia, up the Parkway, which is millions of visitors. Do we take advantage of it? Tourism is a component part, providing good paying jobs, encouraging local people. Ms. McGraw, I don't think a lot of us, when we were growing up, had that encouragement. We just had to leave and then draw our way back. Because sometimes locally you get pigeonholed and you're just hard to overcome that unless there's people like Mr. Thomas that are reaching out to those college kids and trying to get, so we all ought to be doing that. I mean, not just one of us. Marketing, I believe, to be successful, you got to market. A guy told me a long time ago, when things are the worst, you got to spend your money on marketing and change that prospects out there. If you just say, woe is me, woe will be you. So we've got to change that. We've got to promote as progressively as we can. But I do believe that you got to spend effectively, whether it be brochures or developing an app or a little YouTube deal that pops up somehow on everybody's phone in the world. And when you meet, you got about 30 seconds to a minute to sell your place. A brochure's got to be a catchy one-page deal. If I got to open 6 pages, I'm never going to do it. I'll put it in my pocket, put it in the next trash can this week as I mean it. I think y'all are starting on the right direction, joint meetings and getting out and seeing people and promoting people and effectively communicating. We want to help instead of hinder. And that is some of the things I believe community college and training is great, but that's the reason you've got, I think, the EDA and the marketing portion of it, you got to market inside yourself and make everybody believe here that this is the right place. You know, the school teachers and the counselors are marketing college. Y'all got to have an advocate in the schools to market. Let's do something in the county. And there's just a lot of different things we can do. The negative portion, we don't have a lot of money to do it, so we got to do it wisely. So, and I think this meeting tonight's a great first step in making that happen. And I appreciate Ricky putting a strategic plan, because everybody's got to have a plan, and you got to be able to know what you market, who you are, and what we're going to do, and where we're going.
The best quote I ever heard about a plan, Mike Tyson always said, everybody had a plan until he hit them in the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
When you hit them in the mouth and they get back up, then you know your plan ain't very good.
We're sending a lot of bad messages back to companies right now. And I have done everything I can try to do to help the situation. Truckers are getting off 77. The sign out there when they get off is past any place where they can turn around. They come on 52, the sign's out there. Then they get up to the service stations, no truck turn around. State I have begged them to put us a place up there for a turnaround. And I talked to one of the truckers, colored guy, GPS took him off 77 to go to Mount Airy. And I talked to him, he was a real nice guy. And then I talked to troopers after they loaded his ticket, $13,000 ticket. Now, when that goes back to the county, that sounds good for Carroll County, don't it? But out there at the top of the mountain where the lakes was, they could make a truck turnaround there. Then go on Piper's Gap. Some men truckers leaving the truck stop and the signs are not plain or not tick. Lisa over there and I showed her. They tried at Piper's Gap Mountain, know where to turn around. And I have suggested maybe make a turnaround place there at Lambsburg School. That's property that's given to the community center by the county, so maybe they would allow that. But they get hung up in the mountain, got a big record bill and a fine when they get out of there. Where did they get it? Carroll County.
I'd like to see some kind of a fund. We're in contact with a lot of people that are building and might be building new facilities. But you need to be able to bundle that to one person. I know Caterpillar was a classic example. I knew probably 2 years before that was gonna close because they were gonna build a new facility. Carroll probably didn't have a chance at it. But the vice president would have taken a look at it, but we need some kind of a fund where we can get down, somebody can really pursue back to the people situation. It's a one-on-one. Most of these companies know more about you than you know about yourself by the time they get to you. From the data that I've seen, they know what your average wage is because it's show me the money.
I'm going to ask Salil, if I'm not putting him on the spot, tell everybody about the German company that came to visit you over there, and you got a German speaker in Virginia Tech.
Years ago, we had a German company that came over to Wythe County. One of the things about the German company, they all were coming in. I thought one of the things that we could do, so I went to Virginia Tech and found a German-speaking student, brought him to do the presentation for Wythe County. Kleigner Penoplast landed because we had a German-speaking student with us that day. Not only did we interpret back and forth, we knew what they were talking about when they weren't talking to us. And one of the things we sold at Ruhr Retreat was a German-based community when it started with the cabbage farming. And we sold that portion of that heritage, the German Lutherans and stuff there. And it just turned out that they ended up locating, they still have about 350 employees there and make about $40,000 a year.
It's back to that people, that relationship. Nobody else bothered to get the German interpreter.
It's that one or two things sometimes that other people didn't consider. It's the idea that somebody had to execute that last little mile of the project.
Looking past the walls.
Yep. All right. We don't want to burn everybody out tonight, so I will say thank you for participating in this. This is not the last one of these we'll have, but we won't have one every month. But we will, from time to time, get back together as we progress through this thing. We'll update everybody and share ideas, and we want your ideas, everybody's ideas. Been a good session tonight.
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
So since this is an extension of our meeting, if somebody from our group wants to give a motion to adjourn, we can do that, unless we need one from each board. What's the protocol?
I think each one of you adjourn. You know, I don't know, Ricky, if the time is now to set up a working group between you and the board, or if you want to talk about that later before you adjourn, or do that next time.
So,
As we further define the strategic plan and have working groups, maybe that's for our next meeting. think we need to go somewhere from here, just
Yeah.
not let this in.
I agree with that. So what would you suggest, about 5 people? Is that about the right size?
Yeah, a couple of people from each side, 4 or 5.
I think we should include maybe someone from the planning commission as well. Because some pretty good people on the planning commission would be, just like Margaret, Megan, or Bevan.
But once you build momentum, don't let things.
I agree. You're right.
In the school system, maybe.
And, yeah, well, if you could bring somebody from the school system as well, that way you've got a little bit larger group and a bunch of folks in different avenues.
I guess a question on that, Rex, could not this group call in, y'all set up, call in those different kind of people at different times so you can get focused on
Yep.
doing it instead of making the group so big and
Covers,
cumbersome? I would suggest you just be able to call who you needed to, back to that
Just
committee.
have an ad hoc committee that put together whenever we need.
Yeah.
And have, say, 3 people that just target. If we wanted to have 1 or 2 more, that's fine. Target about 3 people.
Yep.
EDA, 3 people, board of supervisors, 3 from the school system, 3 from the planning commission. So we'll just kind of have an ad hoc committee that we'll put together when we need to solve things. One of the things that will have to be done is revision. And that's the first thing that we'll really have to spend some time on. So that's good. And I guess when we leave here, Rex, do you want to communicate that to the planning commission? And I'll talk to the school system, I guess, collectively. Okay. Anything else?
Maybe just a reminder as you're establishing your working groups, ad hoc groups, that once you cross that, once you get to 3, anytime you have 3 together, it's a meeting. So maybe 2 from each body is a little easier way to go. Just a thought as you start moving forward.
Good advice.
Chairman Rex, I move that the Carroll County Board of Supervisors adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, you're adjourned.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Opposed, say
You're in right, Jay.
I think you need to get on that track.
Have a good week, Bob. Not really.
I told y'all about my brother who went to Virginia Tech and retired teacher and a coach. I had another brother who went to North Carolina State, out of state boy. He retired and worked with head of animal sciences there.
Wow.
There's been a lot of people in Carroll County
Yeah, I
that
mean-
just didn't have the opportunities, but could have done wonders.
So, I mean, you know,
Y'all have a good
just go where they don't know you, you
That's
know?
right.
You gotta get the point, I mean, you gotta learn them, they gotta learn you, and.
Your granddaughter that has done so well in school,
She's at Chapel Hill, working down there this year. And, she's just taking a year off from school, but she's working there for college. Got her apartment down there. And, she's thinking of law school. She wanna make sure.
she could be wheels at it, couldn't
Not
she?
complaining.
Any
Few out and around. Somebody told me this morning there's one on the front of a moped, kind of using for windshield.
While they had all these boys that were working.
They got the
No,
plumbing fixed. Did they get it
I
going?
mean,
Get
it
it?
was a shame. JW.
I don't know how much it got done.
He
I knew they was there on
was,
shit.
and he never got his dance. His buddy was, never quite made the grades he did, and he got to be a principal.
Yeah, I know.
So, when he retired, sold his house out here on Rain Tree, moved down to the Renfro Lofts, living down there.
Well,
Smart Scale, which is also a 6-year road plan. Now, there's,
hello.
secondary, so.
Okay, you want me to come home or grab something to eat or what?
That's got no money to build.
That's what he's already.
All right, bye-bye, dear. Okay.
Be good.
Telecommunication fees on that. But there's other ways, primary interstate, 6 years.
I'm looking for one of these McCraw youngins that's 4'6".
You can hear me tell about the other.
What are you, 6'3"?
Department head.
I'm 6'4".
Excuse me. You know, no.
Last project got funded.
I know your dad.
Bring
I
us
knew
a
you
concrete
were-
plant up here, asphalt or something.
Good meeting. I've heard a lot about you, but you exceed all expectations.
Well, I started working on brush fork a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm the guy that was ended up on the bottom of the tractor, you know.
Where's that at? Right there at,
The way the curve was, I rented that
Crashed
house down. Bob got it.
It failed on that massive first. It collapsed, it bent
Come out.
right at the fender.
Was that curve, that thing.
Because I looked at
You'd have to be out in the middle of the road to see. Right.
I did.
But I'm good.
I looked at it.
Checking on the cows. What about Bob's horse or there somewhere? Then, so I mentioned police and I had her do something back and her red out through there.
Congratulations.
Thankfully, they got the, I don't know how the curve and board holding out for the bridge to be smooth. You know, it's gonna be a lot of money. You gotta put it to all
You know, I don't know what you had.
This is,
Yeah. Yeah.
Lines are great stuff.
It just collapsed.
No.
I've got problems with it. I like the tractor.
Yeah.
What would it do for some?
Yeah, they'd cut it if they feel like, you know.
I mean, I don't know why you. I get it.
I've still got it.
Oh, I understand.
It's mobile.
He's on straight up.
Stuff on
Keep the sound down, you know, he's got to be straight up, you know, so I don't know what to get started out with him, but hopefully, foot or two maybe.
That's right, anything help with it.
Yeah.
He told me to get off.
Have a good.
And I couldn't find him. Then when he got off the tractor road.
See you, Mr. McCraw.
So when I saw your pictures, that reminded me.
I know of 4 people in Carroll County that were killed in tractor accident, 4, and it's probably more than that,
You know, one of the guys that was about my age, Kenneth Ball.
Oh, yeah, I had him as a student, and, yeah, that tractor charges overrunning. Kenneth,
Told you all of it.
I had him in basketball, and I needed a point guard so dang much,
Other brother.
and,
He was left-handed.
He retired.
yeah, and I needed him, and he finally decided that he was gonna be a girl, and he left, and all I had was these big galoots that couldn't chew gum and walk, you know, I needed a point guard. Good to meet you, though.
Take care. Just let me know.
Hello, young man.
Good evening.
I'm going to get something to eat. Have you had supper?
This has been it today. I had 1 egg for breakfast. I drink, a protein drink for lunch.
That's what I did for breakfast and lunch.
And now I'm going to go eat me a protein bar and go home, go to bed.
No wonder you're a little old skinny butt, by gosh. You'll never be a big man like Rex and Bob.
I was a big man.
Bob and raunchy Rex.
But I just let my chest drop down in my drawers.
Yeah, furniture disease, yep. Your drawers, or your chest drops down in the drawers.
Let's see, what is this here, 19?
See,
December of 2017, I weighed 235.
You weighed 235.
Yeah.
So you went to,
I don't remember seeing him, he wasn't that big when we talked.
That's about what I weigh right now, about 235.
well, you carry better than I do. I'm at
Well, I'm gonna
260.
deliver in about 3 months.
I'm at 268.
I wish I had that
and,
excuse.
hello, but
So I got to 190 and I've decided I can maintain 190. That's what
you weigh that much?
Yeah.
If you're solid.
Mine is good weight.
Yeah, you know,
180.
this is my great story. I'm gonna take you to Detroit. You know, I started losing, I decided I was just too heavy when I
Well,
retired.
I am right now.
So I started losing weight. So I got down, I went to the doctor, he handed me this chart. And he said, well, just look on it there and read it. He said, you know, for your ideal weight. And I weighed about 200 then. I was pretty proud. I lost 30-some pounds. But I was obese.
He wanted you, what, at 140 or something?
And so I kept reading. I said, okay, I can get to 190 and I'm just fat. So I stopped at 190.
The summer before my senior year, I was desperate to gain weight. I weighed 175, and I got a job at Tasty Freeze, and I didn't draw any money. I just paid what extra I owed, and all that ice cream, I put on 10 pounds that summer, but I ate everything. So I got up to 180.
Tasty Freeze was on the other
Yeah,
end.
I got up to 185, and that was light really, but hello, you must have weighed about 130 or something, 140. You was, but the trouble was, then I quit burning off 6,000 calories a day, and I kept eating like a horse, and it 195, and I got out of Virginia Tech at about 195, 200.
This is my downfall. Is I love potatoes.
Oh, yeah,
no matter
bread.
what- No matter what kind it is.
Oh, yeah.
And if you bring me out wheat rolls, I can put on 10 pounds.
Oh, yeah. I stayed at my grandmother's, and she had a wood cook stove, and every morning she baked cat head biscuits that was 2 inches thick, and she'd done them by hand, and they were so soft in the middle, hello, I've eaten breakfast, buttered biscuits and jelly on them, and then she baked cornbread for lunch, and we had green bean soup beans or whatever, and then if she was short on one of them for supper, she baked again, and there was potatoes every meal, there was bread every meal, and they bought, the killer was, they bought a Guernsey cow. Grandpa had these old white face, and they might have gave a quart a day or something. And they bought a Guernsey cow, and Grandma was getting like 3 gallons of milk of a morning and 3 in the evening, and this is the truth. She would come in and like have a water bucket full of milk, and she had a churn there and stuff, and she'd pour, there'd be like 2 or 3 inches of cream on it. She poured it in the churning thing, and the rest of it, of course, she strained all of it, but she poured it into clear gallon cans and put them in jars and put them in the refrigerator. And the next morning, after she'd poured it off, there'd be that much cream on the gallon can, and she had these like 14-inch wooden spoons, and she stirred that up. And then she poured the milk, and we drank 2 or 3 glasses, and it wasn't like 100 proof milk. It probably would have tested out 190. And so,
Making me hungry. Yeah.
but hello, homemade biscuits and milk like that.
You and Rex, I've got the Virginia Department, the Economic Development Partnership, I've got to call them before, in the morning, first thing. I just had a note in there on my desk. I called after at 4:36 when we were in here. There's some kind of highfalutin project out there. As soon as they tell me, I'll pass it on to you guys.
Well, I am available as long as you don't quit before I burn out my time.
What about the 81st, Bob? Huh?